The Woodcarver's Gift. Once upon a time, in a small peaceful village surrounded by a dense forest, there lived a humble woodcarver named Mateo. Mateo was known throughout the village for his incredible talent. He could transform simple pieces of wood into lifelike figures, animals, people, trees, and even elaborate scenes from everyday life. His carvings were so detailed that they seemed to move and breathe. Every villager admired his work, and they often said, "Mateo's hands are blessed with magic." But Mateo was not a man who sought fame. He lived a quiet life, working in a tiny workshop at the edge of the village, surrounded by the tall trees that provided him with his material. His only goal was to create beauty through his craft, to bring joy to those who appreciated the art of woodcarving. For years, Mateo's reputation grew, and soon, people from neighboring towns began to visit the village, hoping to see his carvings or purchase one of his creations. Despite his growing fame, Mateo remained grounded. He never charged more than a fair price, and he always carved with love and care. He believed that each piece of wood had a story waiting to be told, and it was his job to reveal it. One day, a wealthy merchant from a distant city arrived at Mateo's workshop. The merchant, hearing of Mateo's talent, wanted to commission a special piece, a life-size sculpture of himself to decorate his grand estate. "Woodcarver," the merchant said arrogantly, "I hear you are the best in the land. I will pay you handsomely to create a statue of me, but it must be perfect, better than anything you've ever done." Mateo, ever humble, agreed to the commission. "I will do my best, sir," he replied, "but the true beauty of the piece will come from the wood itself. I will work with it to reveal its inner character." The merchant laughed. "Wood? It is I who should be the focus, not some piece of timber. Just make sure my statue is flawless." Mateo nodded, though he felt uneasy about the merchant's arrogance. Still, he set to work, choosing the finest piece of wood he could find. For weeks, he carefully shaped and carved the wood, pouring his skill and heart into the project. The statue began to take form, strong, elegant, and lifelike. But as he worked, Mateo began to notice something strange. One evening, as Mateo was putting the finishing touches on the statue, he heard a faint creaking sound. He looked up startled, and saw the statue's arm move slightly, as if it had shifted on its own. Mateo blinked in disbelief. "Did I imagine that?" he muttered to himself. He shook his head and continued working, but the next night, the movement happened again. This time, the statue's head tilted ever so slightly. Mateo stepped back, his heart racing. Was the statue alive? He knew that his carvings had always been special, but they had never moved before. Confused and curious, he decided to keep a close watch. Over the next few days, the movements became more noticeable. The statue would shift when Mateo wasn't looking, its posture changing, its hands moving. Mateo couldn't explain it, but he felt as though the wood itself was trying to communicate with him. He spoke to the statue one evening. "What is it you want?" he asked quietly, feeling slightly foolish for talking to an inanimate object. But to his astonishment, he heard a soft whisper in his mind, "You have given me form, but I have no purpose." "Mateo Frotze." Was the voice coming from the statue? He wasn't sure, but he felt a deep connection to the wood, almost as if it were asking for something more than just existence. Unsure of what to do, Mateo decided to seek advice. The village elder, a wise man named Elias, had always guided Mateo in times of doubt. Mateo explained everything to Elias: the statue's mysterious movements, the strange feeling that it was alive, and the whisper he had heard in his mind. Elias listened carefully, stroking his long beard. "Mateo," he said thoughtfully, "your gift is not just in your hands, but in your heart. You have a deep connection with your craft, and sometimes that connection can bring life to your creations. But life without purpose is empty." Mateo nodded, understanding. "So what should I do?" "Perhaps the statue is seeking its purpose," Elias said. "It reflects the soul of the wood and the person you carved it for. But if the person it represents is empty of purpose, the statue will feel the same." Mateo thought about the merchant, his arrogance, his focus on wealth and appearance. Perhaps the statue was reflecting that emptiness. It was a creation of beauty, but it had no meaning beyond its physical form. The day came when the merchant returned to collect his statue. He walked into Mateo's workshop, his eyes lighting up at the sight of the magnificent carving. "Ah, this is perfect," the merchant exclaimed. "You have captured my likeness exactly." Mateo hesitated. "The statue is beautiful, yes," he said carefully, "but there is something more to it. It seeks a purpose beyond decoration." The merchant laughed dismissively. "A purpose? It is a statue, Woodcarver. Its purpose is to stand in my garden and impress my guests. What more could it want?" Mateo sighed. He knew the merchant wouldn't understand, but he felt an obligation to explain. "When I carve, I don't just shape the wood. I try to bring out its inner spirit. This statue, there is something alive within it. It needs more than just to be admired. It needs to be meaningful." The merchant's face hardened. "I didn't come here for a lecture on philosophy. I came for my statue. Now, take your payment and let me be on my way." Reluctantly, Mateo accepted the payment, though he felt uneasy. As the merchant left, the statue was loaded onto a grand carriage and taken away to the merchant's estate. Days passed, and Mateo tried to put the strange events out of his mind, focusing instead on his other carvings. But one evening, as he was working in his workshop, a knock came at the door. To Mateo's surprise, it was the merchant, looking unusually troubled. "Woodcarver," he said, his voice low, "something is wrong with the statue. I placed it in my garden as planned, but it moves. It shifts when no one is watching. My guests are disturbed by it, and I don't understand." Mateo listened quietly, nodding. "The statue needs purpose, my lord," he said gently. "It was not carved simply to be looked at. It wants to do more, to bring meaning to its existence. Perhaps it reflects something in you." The merchant frowned. "In-me? What do you mean?" "I believe the statue reflects its owner's soul," Mateo explained. "If your life is filled with purpose, the statue will find peace. But if your life is empty, it will continue to seek meaning." The merchant fell silent, clearly shaken by Mateo's words. For the first time, he looked inward, questioning his own life. He had spent years accumulating wealth and status, but what had it brought him? Admiration, perhaps, but no real fulfillment. "I've never thought about my life in that way," the merchant admitted quietly. "I've always believed that wealth and power were enough. But now, I see that there's more to life than just possessions." Mateo smiled kindly. "We all seek purpose, my lord, even the wood." Humbled by the experience, the merchant returned the statue to Mateo. "Take it back," he said. "I am not ready to give it the purpose it seeks. Perhaps one day I will be, but for now, it belongs with you." Mateo accepted the statue, understanding that the merchant had taken the first step toward personal growth. He placed the statue in his workshop, where it remained still and peaceful, as if it had found its true home. Over time, the merchant's life changed. He began using his wealth to help others, funding schools and building homes for those in need. He found that by giving back to the community, his life became richer and more meaningful. And as he grew, so did his appreciation for true art and the purpose it could bring. One day, the merchant returned to Mateo's workshop, a new man. "I'm ready," he said with a smile. "I've found my purpose. May I have the statue back?" Mateo, seeing the change in the merchant, handed the statue over with a sense of peace. This time the statue would not move. It had found its purpose, just as the merchant had found his. True beauty and talent lie not just in creation, but in the meaning and purpose we give to our lives.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.